there are white nationalist groups all over the United States. It is really troublesome to know that this is right here in our backyard.
You have the swastikas painted on your house just because you are a black person? This is not the South. This is in Vermont.
Kiah Morris was the only black woman in Vermont's state legislature.
Thank you for what you had to say, Senator Sanders.
But an escalating campaign of racial harassment has forced Kiah to resign from office.
You are not in any way, shape, or form ever required to have to deal with people coming at you with hateful comments. And if our systems are not set up to ensure that that doesn't happen, then they need to change, not you.
I'm Amanda Knox, and having been the target of online hate myself, I want to know the cost of a woman speaking her mind when she's in the minority. I was hoping to speak with Kiah in her home, but as it turns out, her home has been targeted. So we're going to this bed and breakfast that's nearby instead. Thank you so much for being here. I know that this is a kind of in the thick of it time. How would you describe Vermont demographically and politically?
It is kind of a reflection of most places in the United States. I mean, Vermont's well known for its progressive politics. We're well known for being leaders and trailblazers as far as equality is concerned. But it's not without contestation. It's not without resistance. It's not without ugliness.
According to the Census Bureau, Vermont is one of the least diverse states in the nation, with a population that is over 94% white. When Kiah was elected in 2014, she knew she would be facing opposition from some of her constituency. She had been vocal in the activist community for years and made no bones about what she stood for as an elected official.
We choose to protest every day just by living and surviving this inequality, this injustice.
This is for Eric Garner. This is for Marshawn McConnell. This is for Sandra Glenn. This is for Kiah.
Art and the activism for me has always been a thread throughout my entire life. It put me in a position where people said, she will speak up for us. She will fight for us. There was never a question that I was not only going to be speaking up for people of color, speaking up for people who were low income, speaking up for women. And it was a difficult win, but I was glad that I did.
So is this where you worked as a lawmaker?
No.
Where is that?
We don't have offices.
Oh, really?
Nope, we don't have interns. We have nothing. You do it on your own.
Really?
Yep.
Have you felt resistance always, ever since that you've been a representative of this community?
When I first ran for office, a fundraising event that I had, my husband recounted for me a gentleman who came up to him and introduced himself and said, I wanted to make sure that I said hi. And my husband said, okay, well, why is that? He said, well, your wife left one of the flyers for this concert on my door and on my neighbor's door. And my neighbor came over, shaking it in my face and saying, can you believe the audacity of this for running for office, thinking she can represent Vermont? It definitely let me know that it wasn't gonna just be perfectly smooth sailing.
The white supremacist movement was already active in Vermont during Kiah's early tenure in office, and soon they focused their attention on her. While some chose to make their opinions public, many turned to hidden forums on the dark web.
One of the individuals that I was dealing with, he's a constituent within my former district, and he had been apparently stalking me online for quite some time. He's an avowed neo-Nazi. In fact, this weekend there was a protest against the Kavanaugh hearings, and he showed up there with a gun on his holster, ready to confront whomever he could find.
He's got that thing on him like a peacock tail.
Right, it's not your typical person, and open carry is absolutely legal here, and it is totally his right to be able to do so. But most people don't typically have them brandished in a way. Things really started to take a major shift with the governor's push to do comprehensive gun reform in our state. That single issue created a chasm that reached dangerous levels.
What were people saying?
It was the simple rhetoric of being able to say, here's this black woman from Chicago coming in here, and she's trying to take our guns.
After the 2016 election, the white supremacist movement in Vermont became more active.
I mean, we have these incredibly difficult and insidious and foul racist comments that are coming straight from the Oval Office on an almost daily basis. So expressing those beliefs, even if it comes from a place of fear and pain, is normalized.
Kiah's harassers started targeting her more frequently, right as her husband fell severely ill. So I know that there's an ongoing investigation, but what can you tell me specifically about the threats and harassment that you've been subjected to?
We've had everything from home invasion, where people actually broke into our home while we were there asleep, vandalism on our cars and our property, swastikas painted on the trees. There was even a moment that we had a few weeks ago where there were youth sitting out in front of our home, directly in front of our living room, taking pictures and videos with their phones. And then the next day, after my husband had been in the ER for over 6 hours, they decided to come and play this really aggressive game of ding dong dash. And they had communication, they were whistling to each other. 7 youth, and would come and again and again and again barrage and come and bang on all of our windows and our doors very loudly to not only wake my son up and upset us, upset our dog, and they did it again and again and again, almost 5 times within an hour. So it culminated in a death threat that was sent. One that my son actually witnessed.
Was it sent to your home?
It was sent to our home, and my young son saw it, and he completely understands. He said, "Why, Daddy, why does that say that you're dead?" And so it was sort of this sort of gut-wrenching acknowledgement. I mean, it just was like walking in a nightmare, which I still don't feel like I've completely emerged from.
How many times have you contacted law enforcement to try to get help?
Several times. And it was really strange that when we reported this to law enforcement, they were just like, oh, that's just kids being kids. It's just online trolling. It's just political dissent. It just isn't really a home invasion. It was just an attempted burglary. All of these really insane ways that we try to gaslight what's happening. This is not a game.
I went to meet with Tabitha Polmore, a local leader of the NAACP and a friend of Kiah's. She's been helping Kiah's family build a case to prove the attacks were racially motivated.
So I have been helping the family to gather their evidence and make their timeline, to be there in the middle of the night if Kiah needs to talk or if, Jim's stressing out.
Can I just say that, that is really wonderful to hear. I've had supporters of mine do that work for me, and I hope that you know how much that means to someone who's in that position.
I feel like that's the biggest role that I can play to help Kiah right now. Vermont government is not ready to handle incidents of racism related to people in public positions. That has become clear through this process. Her local police department, in my opinion, didn't do enough.
Do you know what the Bennington police said?
At one point, they actually said, "Good luck."
Really? Mm-hmm. So
said, "Yeah, there's not much we can do. Good luck." Even more recently, some behaviors were written off again as one-offs. The refusal to look at these things as a pattern of behavior is mind-boggling to me.
Was there a final straw?
The final straw was in realizing that we brought the computers over to law enforcement, gave a full report, and that they sat there for almost 3 weeks.
Kiah's case is now being investigated by the state police, but in the meantime, she's decided to resign from the legislature.
I cannot be the legislator that I want to be and be assured of the safety for myself and my family.
And how did you arrive at the decision to resign?
It was excruciating. It's not as simple as, okay, I'm worried about a couple of tweets, or I'm worried about an Instagram, or I'm concerned about this or that. There was so much happening. It became an inevitability. We don't feel safe in our own home. This is the home that my husband grew up in, and we love it. But it doesn't feel safe, and it doesn't feel like home.
So are you going to continue your work here in Vermont?
For the time being, we're taking it one day at a time, and we'll see where the future leads us for sure.
You're not letting it stop you?
No. I was in the fight before I was in the seat, and I'll be in the fight afterwards.
Oh, this is beautiful.
So this is St. Peter's Episcopal Church. It's been really instrumental in supporting the activist community. So this was actually the room that I sat in when I withdrew my nomination to run. I think I was sitting right in this seat over here.
What were you feeling in that moment?
Slightly numb, but kind of sad at the same time.
I'm so compelled by you because as a lawmaker, we've asked so much of you. And what you've gotten in response is people holding you up as this symbol to throw darts at, to pick you apart, not for your policy, but for your personhood. And it's absurd. And I'm so sorry. Like, it drives me nuts.
I want the people that have harmed me to get the help they need. But that also doesn't mean that I have to bear it.
No, of course not. No one should have to bear that. We're at an extremely divisive time in our country. We've lost the ability to know the difference between scrutiny and hatred, between disagreement and harassment. My hope for Kiah is if she comes back, that it's not just her voice, and that this time she actually does have a chorus of supporters who are not just allowing her to take care of the problem.